So most people have seen this, I think, by now. I posted it. It's all over Twitter. So somebody else posted this of James O'Keefe at Mar-a-Lago next to a replica of the Ark of the Covenant. Now, and then James O'Keefe had put, it's the real thing or something like that. I think he was teasing. But then people went, were wondering, because if it's not true, you know how on Twitter they put a community note attached to it. So there wasn't. So people were looking into it. I think it's a replica because Laura Loomer came along and she posted a picture in the comment section of her next to the same replica at Mar-a-Lago. So it was an event they had at the beginning of January. It was a small gathering, she said, and somebody had made the replica based on the dimensions of it in the Bible that was specified, when they were building it in the Bible. And she said it was there just as a basically a symbol of the spiritual war that's at hand. Okay, so, but I think there's more to this. I'm not saying with any of them. I'm just saying that the one thing this world would never want, I think the Ark of the Covenant has been found. Not that this is it, but that it has been. And I'm gonna prove my reasoning for this in a minute, because the one thing that this world would not want you to know is that, okay, like the amount of Bible archaeology discoveries they come up with is massive all the time, and all you get if they do announce it on mainstream media is maybe a 30-second clip. But you go searching, there's tons of there's more evidence for the Bible than there is science in general, in my opinion. But the universities, I always go after them, right? Well, the universities have done a good job at hiding a lot of this information, yes. And then using their university students that are overeducated, that all just happen to come out of the university, never believing in the Bible and God because they believe what everybody told them in the university. But the one thing, this would be a huge discovery, and it's been being sought after for a long time. So the thing is about Mar-a-Lago is it actually is the Winter White House. Meriwether Post was the heiress to Post cereal back in the day. She built it. She built it because she was a patriotic woman. She was the richest woman in, I think, the world, definitely the United States. And she collected so much, so many jewels and crowns. And so she had donated this house to the government because she had donated her yacht to them during some dispute in the sea. There was some dispute back in the day, and her yacht was more advanced than many of the military ships. So she donated her yacht, Sea Cloud, and the military used it. So she was very patriotic. She reminds me of a female Donald Trump. The luxurious life she lived. She was married 3 times. She was a diplomat. But Donald Trump, so she gave this to the government, and they didn't want to pay for the upkeep to keep Mar-a-Lago up. It was too expensive, they said, so no thanks. Well, Donald Trump came along in the 80s, and it was on the market, and he ended up buying it. And he's kept all these rooms the way she did them. So Melania, Barron, and Trump, they live on the grounds of Mar-a-Lago in a separate residence, but like they don't live in this area. This is all, they have events in these different rooms, but he's kept most of the rooms other than, updating them as far as cleaning them up. He's kept most of the rooms, most especially the big living room with the gold leaf ceiling. He's kept it all the way Meriwether Post had done it. He hasn't changed anything. Another interesting thing about Meriwether Post is that there's so many interesting things about her. There's some museums, like there's Hillwood, I think in Maryland or Washington, I can't remember, that has she donated everything. She donated all of her jewels. She gave some to her children. She had 1 or 2 children, but most of it she donated everything, just like she had done during her life. She was very patriotic. She had always built like into her, when she was building something to live in, with eagles, because the eagle represents America, and she was just a very patriotic woman when you read up on her. She also had a huge, think Trump Tower, but it wasn't Trump Tower, another building. And in the entire building, all the stories were hers. Like she lived in them, like all these different floors. That's how wealthy she was. But she gave a lot back too. So Donald Trump has kept all of this intact. And I just think it's interesting, the history and then this being here, because it goes to something that was going on, especially in 2023. And that's the repatriating of artifacts to their proper countries. Yes. So there's trafficking of human beings, there's trafficking of weapons, there's trafficking of drugs, and there's trafficking of artifacts. Iraq reclaimed 17,000 looted artifacts. It's the biggest ever repatriation. The cuneiform tablets and other objects had been held by the Museum of the Bible, founded by the family that owns the Hobby Lobby craft store chain, and by Cornell University. So many of these universities, just like they have our DNA in their science genome labs, they have a lot of this stuff, which is why the universities have served to always direct people away from the Bible. Because again, Cornell University, that's just one of many that I think a lot of these, the evidence, I mean, we have enough evidence to prove the Bible, okay? It's just people aren't told about it enough. But the fact is, the Ark of the Covenant, I absolutely believe, was recovered. It's just that until you address and remove all of the globalists and all the corruption, the truth isn't going to come out about these things, because the one thing they don't want you to know is that the Bible is true. They're okay if you want to believe the Hinduism or whatever other country. They're fine with that. But the Bible, no way. That's the one they don't want you to know is the truth, which should tell you it is the truth. This was August 2023. Hundreds of Mexican cultural artifacts were detained and returned to Mexico by the U.S. California Border Patrol. As you can see, how an 11th century monastery reclaimed artifacts from the U.S. and discovered a hoard of treasures in the process. Yep, 2023. Employees at the Iraqi Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Baghdad on Tuesday working around crates of looted antiquities returned from the United States. Look at all that. 30 ancient artifacts worth $3.7 million were returned to Greece by the U.S. A trove of artifacts officials call stolen. Isn't it interesting? Stolen is in quotations, like how Donald Trump had put stolen in quotations many times when he was talking about, 2020, but he spelled it with two L's. Stolen are returned to Italy. The Manhattan District Attorney, this would be Alvin Bragg actually, office is repatriating 200 objects it confiscated from major museums and collections. Many were tied to one dealer. And then one more, but there's so many. Looted treasures begin a long journey home from France. The return of Benin of 26 ransacked objects will be the first large-scale act of restitution by Africa by a former European colonial power. So this was 1911, New York Times. Have Englishmen found the Ark of the Covenant? A mysterious expedition, apparently not composed of archaeologists, hunt strange treasures under the Mosque of Omar, set the Muslims in a ferment and may cause diplomatic incident. It did cause a diplomatic incident. Muslims chased them out of there, but they had already been there underground under the dome digging, and some people say they got away with Moses' staff. Who knows? We don't know. This is from that same article. So the fact is, no matter, even if they did find the Ark of the Covenant, but I think they did. I think somebody at some point has found it. Nobody's going to let that be known to the world, because that would change the dynamics of everything. No longer could the experts claim the Bible isn't true. They've already been trying to claim it's not true when there's tons of evidence to prove that it is. But that would put a nail in the coffin. I believe somebody knows where it is.